Rebecca, thanks very much for joining us. An exhausting week, I know. As we followed your reporting, we saw the shock of people, the grief, the anger for sure. This weekend, what's it been like in Beirut?
This weekend, really what we've seen boil over is that anger, Ian. I was just this evening in these protests in downtown Beirut, and there are just thousands of people that have taken to the street because they blame the government for what happened, and they want the government to fall. So, thousands of people took to the streets again today in front of the country's parliament. We were downtown as tear gas was being fired at them by security forces trying to disperse these protests. But, people are really angry. And I'd say that, it's not just about this blast. This blast obviously has completely devastated this city. But they're saying, this is about the corruption, the mismanagement, and the nepotism that people in Lebanon have suffered for decades. And they're saying this is the same thing that caused this blast on Tuesday. So, we've been talking about the protests in the last 2 days. But of course, Ian, people have been in the streets here since October demanding that the government fall, asking for a new political system. And so this just kind of reignited their anger. And, we did have the Minister of Information resign today, but nobody I talked to seemed to think that was significant. Even tonight, I heard people chanting Kelon Yani Kelon, which means everyone means everyone. And that means all the politicians. It means that they want all the politicians to leave.
And you have introduced us, as have other reporters, to so many touching scenes. An elderly woman reluctant to leave her place. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, we were walking down the street. This was yesterday, the day before, and we just saw this woman being carried by a group of young men down the street. And, she was just saying, no, no, no. And essentially what they told us was that, she had been in her apartment since the blast went off on Tuesday. She refused to leave, and rescue crews were telling her, we're worried your building is going to completely collapse, but she refused to leave. And in the end, they had to take her out against her will. And just the grief that this woman was going through, the fact that she was so desperate, to stay in her home, it was just so difficult to watch somebody. She was so old, she was maybe in her 80s. She refused to tell us how old she was. And now just to think about the fact that she's homeless. And I'll just say something, Ian. Right now we're having rain tonight in Beirut, which is almost unheard of for Lebanon for August. And right now I'm just thinking about all the people who are, missing walls to their apartment, all the people that have been made homeless, and now they're going to suffer this rain as well.
Rebecca, you're standing outside of your apartment. You were there when the blast happened. We saw some of the pictures. And again, with a few days to reflect on that, take us back to that moment.
Yeah, in the moments just after the blast, Ian, I had been sheltering in an internal hallway when I heard this rumbling, and my whole building shook. And as I came out, I saw, all of the doors and windows smashed off my apartment. The balcony door now near the dining room table. It was devastating. And at that point, I thought it must be something localized, and that I thought my apartment was really badly affected. And I shared these photos. Having spent the last few days out in the streets of Beirut and seeing the damage that other people's homes have sustained, I feel actually incredibly lucky. I've seen whole apartment buildings that were 3 or 4 stories high, just a pile of rubble on the ground, and so many people, made homeless completely by this. I am really lucky that I have a kind and generous friend on the other side of town whose building wasn't damaged, who's offered to let me stay there. I have money to buy whatever food that I need, whatever supplies that I need. But that is not the position for a lot of Lebanese people. A lot of Lebanese people at this point, don't really have anywhere to go. There is an effort in the country to take them in, and there's been an amazing show, Ian, here of unity. Volunteers in the streets helping people clean up their homes, helping people clean up the streets, opening their homes to complete strangers. But so many people were already in such a desperate economic situation before this happened that now, the future must just look so bleak for them, Ian.
It has been an extraordinary few days, and we really appreciate your perspective on it. Rebecca, thank you very much.
You're welcome.